Elon Musk stops cyber attack on hospital. His sacrifice shocks the world. It started like a whisper in the dark, an unnoticed tremor in a sea of digital noise. At 2:17 a.m., the first system failure was reported at St. Jude Medical Center, a massive hospital complex in downtown Los Angeles. At first, it seemed like a minor network issue, a routine glitch in their patient monitoring software. But within minutes, it became clear. This wasn't a glitch. This was an attack. Across dozens of floors, hospital monitors flickered and died. Heart rate sensors, ventilators, insulin pumps, every single machine dependent on software suddenly froze, then displayed a single, ominous message. "We own your system. Pay or they die." At that exact moment, the entire hospital lost access to their patient records. Medical history? Gone. Emergency response logs? Corrupted. Even the power grid feeding the ICU, hacked. The hospital's servers were now under someone else's control. And the worst part? They weren't just locked out. They were being played with. Lights in different wings flickered in chaotic patterns, taunting the staff. Doors to restricted areas opened and closed at random, locking some doctors out while others were trapped inside. In the NICU, where premature babies relied on precise oxygen levels, the air filtration system suddenly surged, then shut down, setting off alarms that screamed through the halls. This was warfare. Digital. Cold. Merciless. And the enemy? They were invisible. A small team of cybersecurity experts sat huddled in a glass-walled command room on the hospital's upper floor, their faces pale under the glow of flickering monitors. "We've been breached at the core level," one analyst stammered. "They didn't just encrypt our data, they've overridden the entire network. We're talking full system control." Dr. Ellen Hart, the hospital's chief administrator, was already drenched in sweat. This was life and death. She turned to a trembling IT specialist. "Can you trace the attack?" The man shook his head. "They're bouncing through international proxies, Russia, China, Brazil. It's a ghost trail. We'd need weeks to track them manually." Dr. Hart swallowed hard. "We don't have weeks." Then suddenly, every screen in the room turned black. A new message appeared in blood-red text. "Pay 50 million in Bitcoin or the ICU goes dark. Timer, 59:59. A countdown clock appeared, ticking away. 1 hour. 60 minutes until the power to the entire intensive care unit, the one keeping hundreds of critical patients alive, was shut down. Dr. Hart's breath caught in her throat. "This is a hostage situation," one of the IT staff whispered. "But instead of people, it's systems?" By now, the Department of Homeland Security had been alerted. The FBI's cyber division was mobilizing. But everyone in the room knew the truth. The government was too slow. By the time their bureaucratic machine moved through protocol, people would already be dying. Dr. Hart's hands shook as she grabbed her phone and scrolled through her contacts. She needed someone who could fight fire with fire. Someone who could outthink these hackers. Someone who understood the power of digital warfare better than anyone else alive. She hesitated for half a second, then hit dial. Half a world away, inside a secure Tesla research facility, Elon Musk was sitting in front of a cluster of ultra-powerful AI servers, watching Neuralink's latest prototype process real-time data. He was tired. Hell, he was beyond tired, but something about tonight felt off. He didn't believe in omens, but when his phone vibrated with an urgent call from a number he didn't recognize, he hesitated. Something in his gut told him to pick up. When he did, Dr. Hart's panicked voice hit him like a gunshot. "Mr. Musk, we need your help. Someone is hacking the hospital. We're locked out. They have control over life support systems. If we don't pay, people will die." Elon sat up straight, his exhaustion vanishing instantly. "How long?" he asked. 55 minutes, she said. Elon's mind was already running calculations. 55 minutes. Not enough time to track the hackers conventionally. Not enough time to write an entirely new security patch. But maybe, just maybe, enough time to outthink them. Elon's fingers hovered over the control panel in front of him. "Send me the network schematics," he said. "I need to see exactly what they've taken over." Dr. Hart hesitated. We can't. The hackers have blocked all outbound data. Elon narrowed his eyes. Then he smirked. Yeah, well, they blocked it from you. His fingers flew across the keyboard, activating a backdoor AI script built into Tesla's private security network. This wasn't a normal firewall penetration. This was AI versus AI warfare. And Elon had spent years preparing for a moment like this. He opened a direct satellite connection, bypassing the hospital's compromised network entirely. Within seconds, a real-time feed of the cyber attack began flooding his monitors. Lines of malicious code scrolled across the screen, moving, adapting, countering every defense in real time. These hackers weren't just criminals. They were experts. Elon's eyes narrowed. "All right," he muttered. "Let's see what you're made of." The moment Musk began countering the attack, the hackers reacted instantly. They saw him. They knew someone else had entered the battlefield. And they didn't like it. Elon's screen glitched for half a second, then a new message appeared, separate from the ransom demand. "Who are you?" Elon's fingers kept moving, bypassing security layers at an inhuman speed. He wasn't just blocking the attack, he was tracing it, hunting them. Another message appeared. "Get out or we kill them faster." Elon smiled. "Try me." Then, for the first time since the attack had begun, he went on the offensive. Instead of trying to disarm the virus head-on, Musk did something no one expected. He tricked the hackers into fighting themselves. Using Neuralink's experimental AI, he deployed a decoy system, a fake network filled with dummy hospital data that mirrored the real thing. For the hackers, it was indistinguishable from their actual target. They took the bait. And the moment they redirected their attack to the decoy, Musk made his move. With one keystroke, he launched a counter-intrusion protocol, locking the hackers into a digital cage of their own making. They had just trapped themselves. For the first time, their encrypted servers were vulnerable. And Musk? He was just getting started. Elon's fingers flew across the keyboard, his mind operating at lightning speed as he fed false pathways into the decoy system. The hackers had taken the bait, redirecting their full force into the dummy network, believing they were still in control. But what they didn't realize was that they were no longer attacking the hospital. They were now attacking an AI-generated simulation, an environment Musk had designed in mere minutes to mirror the hospital's infrastructure. The hackers, whoever they were, had exposed themselves. Musk's eyes scanned the scrolling data, searching for patterns. Every digital fingerprint left behind was another clue leading him back to their true location. He leaned in closer as a ping surfaced, an encrypted IP bouncing between servers in Belarus, then to a remote system in Kazakhstan. Another bounce, this time to an unknown relay in South Africa. These guys were smart, but not smarter than him. They were using an advanced cloaking mechanism, constantly shifting their digital footprint to avoid detection. But Musk wasn't just tracking them. He was watching them make their moves in real time, and with every step they took, he was already one step ahead. The hackers realized something was off. The system they were breaching wasn't responding the way it should. Their commands were being rerouted, their malware wasn't spreading the way it had before. Then, another message appeared on Musk's screen, this time with an edge of frustration. "What are you doing?" Musk smirked. "What, you don't like it when someone fights back?" He didn't bother typing a response. Instead, he initiated the next phase of his counterattack. A carefully designed loop in the decoy system sent their own malware back at them, bouncing their attack code between their own encrypted servers. Now, they weren't just attacking a false system, they were attacking themselves. Within seconds, the hackers realized the trap. They scrambled to cut the connection, but Musk had already anticipated that. He intercepted their disconnect attempt, keeping them locked in the loop, every keystroke they made feeding back into itself. They were now prisoners in their own game. His secondary monitors showed the hospital's real-time status. Systems were slowly coming back online. The ICU power grid stabilized. The ventilators and monitors flickered, then resumed their normal functions. Emergency room patient data reappeared on screens as the hospital staff gasped in relief. The attack had been contained, at least for now. Musk exhaled, stretching his fingers before cracking his knuckles. "All right, let's see who you really are." He activated a deep data scan, peeling away the layers of false IPs and encrypted relays. This wasn't just any hacking group, this was an operation at a level few had ever attempted. As the final layer unraveled, a name surfaced. Not a random hacker collective, not a rogue group, but something far worse. A private, state-sponsored cyber warfare unit with ties to one of the world's most powerful governments. The realization hit Musk like a sledgehammer. This wasn't just about money. This was an act of cyber terrorism. Suddenly, the power in Musk's facility flickered. His main screens glitched for a brief second before stabilizing. A warning flashed across the interface. An external force was attempting to breach his own system. They had figured out who he was. They were coming for him now. Musk didn't flinch. If they wanted a fight, he was more than ready to give them one. The Tesla facility's automated security protocols kicked in, isolating his servers from outside interference. Musk quickly rerouted his connection through SpaceX's private satellite network, creating an untraceable relay point. His Neuralink AI-assisted interface allowed him to move faster than any human hacker could, processing threats in microseconds. His mind and the machine were working as one, a seamless symphony of calculations and countermeasures. Then, a sudden realization hit him. This attack wasn't just about the hospital. The hackers had used it as bait, a distraction. The real target was something far bigger. Musk's screen flashed red as a new alert surfaced. Starlink intrusion detected. His stomach dropped. If they gained access to Starlink satellites, they wouldn't just have control over one hospital. They would have the ability to shut down communications across entire regions. They could disable GPS, disrupt power grids, even interfere with global financial systems. This was the kind of attack that could cripple nations. His pulse pounded as he pulled up the security logs. The breach attempt had begun exactly 15 minutes after he had started countering their attack on the hospital. They had played him. They had wanted him occupied while they moved on to the real objective. Musk clenched his jaw. You sneaky bastards. He had to make a choice, and he had to make it now. If he continued defending the hospital, he risked losing Starlink. If he diverted his efforts, the hackers might be able to re-establish control over the ICU systems. It was a no-win scenario, but Musk had never been one to play by the rules. He pulled up two separate control panels, running simultaneous defense programs. His right hand worked on securing Starlink, blocking entry points and severing external access attempts. His left hand continued managing the hospital's firewall, making sure no new malware slipped through. His mind raced, split between two separate battles. He was running out of time. Then, another escalation. A second wave of attacks hit Starlink, this time from a completely new source. A secondary hacker unit had been activated, meaning whoever was behind this had reserves. This wasn't a single group. This was a coordinated operation. Musk's screen lit up with new warnings. They were trying to brute force their way into the Starlink mainframe. If they got in, they could launch satellites offline, create debris fields in orbit, even jam military communications. There was only one way to stop them. He had to shut down the Starlink network. Completely. It was the only way to sever their access before they got a foothold. But doing so would plunge entire continents into a blackout. Governments, businesses, airlines, millions of people relied on Starlink every single second. If he cut the power, the fallout would be massive. His hands hovered over the command sequence. He had less than 2 minutes before they breached the core system. 120 seconds to make a decision that would change everything. He exhaled sharply, eyes darting between the two battles he was fighting. Then, without hesitation, he made his choice. He entered the shutdown sequence, overriding every safety measure in place. A final warning flashed on his screen. Starlink network emergency shutdown. Confirm? His finger hovered over the final keystroke. One press and it was over. One press and he'd be making the biggest gamble of his life. Musk closed his eyes for a brief second, then hit enter. Instantly, every Starlink satellite in orbit began shutting down. The world's most powerful internet constellation was going dark. And Elon Musk had just set the stage for one of the most unprecedented cyber wars in history. The moment Musk hit enter, the command executed instantly. Across the planet, Starlink satellites blinked offline, severing their connections one by one like falling dominoes. On Earth, millions of users lost access simultaneously: banks, businesses, airlines, military operations, emergency services. Entire regions went dark. In control centers worldwide, technicians and engineers scrambled, trying to figure out what had just happened. Global internet providers saw their systems crippled, financial markets momentarily froze, and defense agencies went on high alert as they detected what appeared to be a catastrophic communications failure. The hackers, whoever they were, must have felt the shockwave as well. For a moment, their systems were still operating, still trying to breach the mainframe, only to realize that there was no more network to hack. Musk had effectively destroyed the battlefield, taking their weapons right out of their hands. His facility remained eerily silent, the glow of his screens illuminating his face as he watched the aftermath unfold in real time. This was the nuclear option, the kill switch. He had just gambled trillions of dollars in infrastructure, knowing it could take days, maybe weeks to fully restore. But in the grand scheme of things, that was a small price to pay compared to what could have happened. If the hackers had gained full access, they wouldn't have just disrupted the world. They could have controlled it. His hands were still shaking, adrenaline coursing through him, but there was no time to breathe. The job wasn't over yet. He had cut them off, but he hadn't caught them. Fingers flying across the keyboard, he deployed the final phase of his counterattack. His shutdown of Starlink had forced the hackers to retreat, exposing their final exit points as they tried to escape detection. They had been smart, using layers upon layers of rerouted connections, but Musk had been watching every move they made. Now, for the first time, he had a real location. His screen flashed an exact GPS coordinate. He stared at it. Somewhere deep in Eastern Europe, a classified cyber warfare facility hidden in the mountains, likely protected by layers of international security. His lips pressed together. He had expected a small group of rogue hackers, maybe a syndicate, maybe a terrorist cell. But this was government level. And now they knew that he knew. He leaned back, exhaling. The weight of what he had just done, what he had just uncovered, began to settle in. This wasn't just about one cyber attack. This was a new kind of war. His phone buzzed. It was a restricted number. Without hesitation, he picked up. Elon, a voice on the other end said, "Calculated. Someone high up in the intelligence world. We need to talk." In Washington, D.C., the White House Situation Room was a chaotic mess of flashing screens, rapid-fire conversations, and high-ranking officials scrambling for answers. The sudden Starlink blackout had triggered global panic, and now world leaders were demanding explanations. The Secretary of Defense was staring at a live satellite feed, still showing entire regions offline. "Do we have a confirmation on what the hell just happened?" An NSA analyst turned in his chair, sweat beading on his forehead. "Sir, it appears to have been manually shut down." The room went silent. "By who?" A few keystrokes later, Musk's name flashed onto the screen. No one said a word for a full 3 seconds. Then the president, watching from the head of the table, sighed and rubbed his temples. "Get him on the phone." Now, back in Musk's control room, he was already preparing his next move when another call came in. This time, it wasn't a restricted number. It was the President of the United States. He let it ring twice before picking up. "Elon," the voice came through, heavy with barely contained urgency. "What the hell did you just do?" Musk's fingers tapped against the desk as he studied the flickering remnants of the digital war he had just fought. "I just saved the world," he said. "You're welcome." The line was dead silent for a moment. Then, "Do you realize what you've done?" Musk leaned back. "Yeah. I stopped a cyber attack that could have crippled your country. You also just caused an internet blackout affecting half the planet." Musk smirked. "Temporary blackout? You don't know that." "I do," Musk countered. "I built the damn thing." The frustration on the other end was palpable, but Musk had never been one to play by the rules, and he wasn't about to start now. The president exhaled. "Tell me you at least found them." Musk's gaze drifted to the coordinates still glowing on his screen. "I did," he confirmed. "And trust me, you're gonna want to handle this one fast." A beat of silence. Then, I'm sending people to you. Sit tight. The line cut out. Musk placed his phone down, staring at the screen. The world was about to learn the truth. And something told him that this was only the beginning. News outlets around the globe were losing their minds. Breaking news, global internet outage, what we know. Starlink shut down. Massive cyber attack or technical failure. White House responds to unprecedented digital blackout. The theories were wild. Some thought it was a test run for cyber warfare. Others believed it was an inside job. Conspiracy forums exploded with theories about a hidden government experiment gone wrong. Meanwhile, Musk sat alone in his office, watching the chaos unfold. He had done what was necessary. But now, the world was demanding answers. A knock at his door. He already knew who it was before it opened. A team of government officials, intelligence agents, and military personnel stepped inside. No formalities. No pleasantries. The lead agent, a no-nonsense woman in a black suit, stepped forward and slid a file across his desk. "You're going to want to see this." Musk flipped it open. The first thing he saw? A grainy surveillance photo of a man. A face he didn't recognize. A name he didn't know. But beneath it, in bold red letters, the words, "Priority Threat, Level 1. Musk's jaw tightened. This wasn't just some random group of hackers. This was something bigger. Something that wasn't over yet. He closed the file. Looked up. "All right," he said, standing. "Let's finish this." Musk exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair as he studied the classified file in front of him. The image of the unknown hacker burned into his mind, his instincts telling him that this wasn't just some rogue cybercriminal. This was something deeper, something state-backed, something calculated. His eyes skimmed over the pages, scanning the limited intel available. The name was redacted, but the affiliations were unmistakable. "This guy works for a government," Musk muttered, tapping the document. "Not just some underground hacker collective. This is cyber warfare at the highest level." The lead agent across from him nodded grimly. "We believe this attack was a test run. If you hadn't shut them out, they would have gone for something even bigger." Musk's jaw tightened. "And what happens when they try again?" "That's where you come in." The agent leaned in, lowering her voice. "The government needs your help to track these guys down. The FBI, NSA, even the military, they're all good, but they're not fast enough. Not against this level of cyber warfare." Musk folded his arms. "Let me guess. You want me to go on the offensive?" The agent didn't answer. She didn't need to. Musk chuckled dryly. "So let me get this straight. I just saved the world from a cyber attack, shut down Starlink, caused a global blackout, and now you want me to go deeper into the fight." The room was silent. Musk's smirk faded. "You're scared?" The agent hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. Because for the first time, we're dealing with an enemy that doesn't need guns, tanks, or bombs. They can bring an entire nation to its knees with nothing but a keyboard." Musk sighed, rubbing his temples. He knew the weight of what he was about to do. This wasn't just about defending a hospital anymore. It wasn't even about Starlink. This was about something bigger, a full-scale cyber war that could change the balance of power across the world. And he had just put himself at the center of it. He pushed the classified file back across the table. "All right," he said. "Let's hunt them down." The agent nodded. "We already have a lead. But we need your tech. Your expertise." Musk cracked his knuckles, rolling his chair toward his main terminal. "You've got it." Within seconds, his fingers were flying across the keyboard again. His AI-powered cybersecurity network, one of the most advanced in existence, roared to life. This time, he wasn't just playing defense. This time, he was tracking the attackers. The encrypted location he had pulled from the breach earlier, the cyber warfare facility in Eastern Europe, was still online. The hackers thought they had covered their tracks, but they had left behind just enough breadcrumbs for Musk to follow. And he wasn't just following. He was breaking in. He launched a silent counterinfiltration, weaving through their security layers with precision. His AI masked his movements, allowing him to slip into their network without triggering alarms. He wasn't trying to take them down yet, he was watching, learning. Inside their system, he saw communications, logs, transaction records. The deeper he went, the more he realized this wasn't just about cyber extortion. This was an operation. And then he found something that made his blood run cold. A target list. Hospitals, power grids, airports, financial institutions. The cyber attack on St. Jude Medical Center had been a test run, but the real plan? It was global. Musk's heart pounded as he scrolled through the data. There were dates, times, and priority targets all listed under a classified directive. This wasn't some random attack. This was a coordinated strike planned for months, maybe years. He didn't hesitate. With one keystroke, he transmitted everything he found to the agent standing behind him. She stared at the screen, her face pale. This is bigger than we thought. No kidding. Musk leaned back. Now you see why I pulled the plug on Starlink. She nodded, quickly relaying the intel through a secure channel. This changes everything. We need to move fast. Musk's fingers tapped against the desk as he thought. Oh, we need to be faster than fast. These guys are still operational, which means we still have a chance to stop them. The agent hesitated. You're not suggesting... I'm suggesting, Musk interrupted, that we go straight to the source. She blinked. You want to hack them back? Musk shrugged. They did it first. The agent bit her lip. Elon, this is dangerous. You're not dealing with amateur hackers in a basement. This is a government-sanctioned cyber unit. You go after them, and they'll retaliate with everything they have. Musk stared at the screen, watching the enemy's network in real time. The way they moved, the way they countered, they weren't invincible. They were just used to people being too scared to fight back. His smirk returned. Let them try. Without waiting for approval, he launched the first strike. He didn't just block their operations, he corrupted them. Using a deep learning AI model built from SpaceX's neural computing systems, he injected an undetectable virus into their network. It was designed to do one thing: erase every piece of malware they had ever created. Every exploit, every backdoor, every weaponized code fragment. The hackers scrambled to respond. He could see their frantic attempts to counter him, but they were too slow. For once, they were the ones being hacked. And then it happened. One by one, their servers started going offline. First in Moscow, then in Beijing, then in North Korea. Musk's attack wasn't just wiping out one facility. It was destroying the entire network of cyber terrorists they had been working with. Panic erupted on their end. He could see them trying to disconnect, trying to lock him out, but it was already too late. Their infrastructure was collapsing from within. The agent behind Musk let out a stunned breath. Holy, you just crippled a global cybercrime network? Musk leaned back in his chair, watching as the last server went dark. The agent shook her head in disbelief. You do realize they're going to come after you now, right? Musk grinned. They can get in line. As the final trace of the hackers disappeared, Musk turned to his secondary screen, bringing up Starlink's mainframe. With a few more keystrokes, he initiated the reactivation sequence. Across the world, Starlink slowly powered back on, restoring communications, internet services, and military operations. Within minutes, the blackout was over. The world was back online. And Musk? He had just declared war against the most dangerous cybercriminals on the planet. But as he stared at his screen, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over yet. Something still didn't sit right. The target list, it had been too specific. Almost like they had been expecting someone to find it. Almost like it was a trap. His phone buzzed. A single text message appeared. You think you've won. But we're already inside. The lights in his control room flickered. Musk's smirk faded. The real war had just begun. Musk's fingers hovered over the keyboard, his eyes locked onto the ominous message glowing on the screen. You think you've won. But we're already inside. A cold sensation crawled down his spine. He had spent years designing some of the most advanced cybersecurity protocols in existence, yet the words in front of him suggested something impossible. They had breached his system. The control room lights flickered again. His monitors glitched for a fraction of a second, then stabilized. He wasn't alone in his network anymore. He pulled up the Tesla AI security log and ran a deep scan. there was a foreign program embedded inside his system, dormant until now. It had been hiding in the background, watching, waiting. Somehow, while he had been counter-hacking the attackers, they had found a way in. Musk clenched his jaw. Damn it. The agent behind him sensed the shift in energy. What is it? They had a failsafe, Musk muttered. His fingers flew over the keyboard, pulling up every firewall, every defense measure, but it was already too late. They left something behind. A sleeper virus. The agent's expression darkened. Where? Musk swallowed hard. Everywhere. His entire digital empire, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, even Starlink, was connected through his secure server infrastructure. If the hackers had managed to infiltrate his system, they could potentially control everything. Starlink had been the bait. They had played him. Musk's mind raced. They hadn't just breached his systems. They had anticipated his response, used it to gain access to his most secure network. The real attack hadn't started yet. And then, just as the thought crossed his mind, his monitors went black. Every single one. Even the emergency power supply failed. The Tesla AI security system shut down. The room went silent. And then, through the speakers, a voice. Distorted, metallic, emotionless. You think you're the only one who can play this game, Mr. Musk? The agent's hand went to her gun instinctively, but it wouldn't help here. This wasn't an enemy she could shoot. Musk remained calm, but his muscles tensed. They weren't just hacking him. They were speaking to him directly. The voice continued. You destroyed years of our work in a matter of minutes. Do you really think we'd let that go unpunished? Musk crossed his arms. You're wasting your time, he said coolly. I can wipe your little backdoor from my system in seconds. The pause. Then laughter. Hollow and mechanical. Oh, Elon. We don't need your systems anymore. We already have what we need. Musk's breath hitched for just a moment. And what's that? There was no immediate response. Instead, a single file appeared on his main terminal, flashing on and off like a beacon. Project Omega, final phase activated. Musk's blood ran cold. That wasn't their file. That was his. A classified SpaceX project. Something so highly secretive that only Musk himself and a handful of top engineers even knew it existed. The hackers weren't trying to destroy his systems. They were trying to steal something from him. And now they had it. Musk turned sharply to the agent. Get me a secure line to SpaceX, now. She grabbed her encrypted satellite phone, but before she could dial, her screen glitched. The entire network was failing. The attack was spreading. And then, outside the control room's window, the sky began to glow. Musk's pulse spiked. No. The agent turned. What the hell is that? Musk didn't answer. He already knew. The SpaceX Starship prototype, the one docked on the testing pad just a few miles away, was powering up. Remotely. Someone else was controlling it. And they were about to launch it. Chaos erupted inside the Tesla facility. Emergency sirens blared as engineers scrambled, trying to manually override the launch sequence. Musk was already at his secondary terminal, bypassing encryption, racing against time to stop the unauthorized ignition. The agent barked orders into her radio. We have an active cyber hijacking, SpaceX launchpad compromised. Someone is trying to launch a Starship remotely. Musk's hands moved faster than they ever had before. They weren't stealing files. They were stealing an actual rocket. His mind raced through the possibilities. If they launched it under their control, they could arm it, turn it into a missile, or even worse, use it to deploy their own technology into orbit. A satellite carrying an undetectable cyber weapon. A virus that could embed itself into every network on the planet. This was the endgame. His screen flashed red. Teach 30 seconds to launch. Musk's heart pounded. Come on, come on. He accessed the emergency override command, inputting his biometric security key, the highest level clearance possible. Access denied. Musk's stomach twisted. Oh, that's not possible. The agent paled. They locked you out? Musk clenched his jaw. They're me. The realization hit like a thunderbolt. The sleeper virus hadn't just copied his files. It had copied his access credentials, his commands, even his voice authorization. The hackers had essentially cloned his digital DNA, which meant the system couldn't tell the difference between Musk and the attackers. Teach 15 seconds to launch. This was it. He was out of time. He took a sharp breath, forcing himself to think. He was fighting himself now. So how do you beat yourself? You break your own rules. Musk suddenly pivoted, abandoning the SpaceX system altogether and opening a new interface. Not on Earth, in orbit. Starlink had just come back online, and that meant he had access to something no one else did. Teach 10 seconds. Musk overrode his own override, rerouting the SpaceX launch sequence through Starlink's highest altitude satellite, effectively turning it into a digital mirror. If the system couldn't tell the difference between Musk and the hackers, he would make them fight each other. Teach 5 seconds. He executed the command. Instantly, the attackers' cloned commands turned against them. The SpaceX launch system received 2 identical signals, one to launch, one to abort, from sources it believed were both Musk. The AI, programmed to detect anomalies, flagged the conflict as a catastrophic failure. The launch pad locked itself down. The ignition sequence shut off. The hackers had just been beaten by Musk's own AI failsafes. A loud boom echoed in the distance as the rocket's engines powered down, steam hissing into the night air. Silence. Musk exhaled deeply, running a hand through his hair as the agent let out a shaky breath. He had stopped the launch. The hackers had failed. But this wasn't a victory, because they had still gotten away with Project Omega. And that meant this wasn't over. Musk stared at the last message blinking on his screen, left behind by the enemy. You win this round. But next time, we take everything. Musk narrowed his eyes. We'll see about that. And with that, he shut his system down. Because now he was going to hunt them down. And this time, he was taking the fight to them. Musk leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. His mind was already working at 1,000,000 miles per hour, but this wasn't just about thinking fast. This was about thinking smarter. The hackers had retreated, but not because they lost. They had what they came for. Project Omega. The file that had been stolen wasn't just some random prototype. It was the key to something that could change the balance of global cyber warfare forever. He turned to the agent standing next to him, her face still pale from the near-launch catastrophe. I need everything on Project Omega pulled up. Right now. The agent hesitated. Elon, you know I don't even have clearance for that. You do now, he muttered, typing furiously. With a few keystrokes, he bypassed his own security locks, forcing access to the classified SpaceX mainframe. The screen flickered, then loaded the contents of Project Omega. And what Musk saw made his blood run cold. It wasn't just a cyber defense system. It was a weapon. A prototype artificial intelligence designed to predict, counter, and even launch its own cyber attacks. A self-learning AI that could adapt in real time to any digital threat on the planet. Essentially, a nuclear bomb for cyber warfare. And now, it was in the hands of the enemy. Musk clenched his fists. If they deploy this thing, the agent finished his sentence for him. They could take over everything, not just hospitals, not just financial institutions, every network in the world. They could control power grids, military defense systems, entire governments, without firing a single bullet. Musk had just lost the most powerful cyber weapon ever created, and he had one shot to get it back. He pulled up the encrypted data he had intercepted before the hackers went dark. There had to be something, anything that could give him a clue to where they had gone. But the problem was, they had anticipated everything. Their digital footprints had vanished. They had erased themselves. Musk gritted his teeth. No one disappears completely. He turned to the agent. I need a live satellite feed of Eastern Europe. She frowned. You think they're still there? Not for long, he admitted. But they had to move Omega somewhere. And if I know anything about people who think they're untouchable, they always leave a backdoor open. His fingers flew across the keyboard, rerouting one of his private Starlink satellites over a cluster of abandoned Soviet-era bunkers, a place where cybercriminals and black market organizations often operated off the grid. The satellite feed loaded. Musk stared at the screen, scanning for anything out of place. Then he saw it. A convoy of armored transport vehicles moving through a heavily secured compound. A massive communication tower stood in the center, antennas shifting, transmitting something powerful. Musk's heart pounded. They weren't hiding Project Omega. They were activating it. The realization hit like a truck. He was out of time. If the hackers went fully online with Omega, there would be no way to stop them. Every government would be vulnerable. Every firewall would be obsolete. Every security measure would become useless. Musk turned to the agent, his voice sharp. "I need military authorization to launch a counterstrike now." Her eyes widened. "You want to attack them?" "They already attacked me," he snapped. "I'm just finishing what they started." She hesitated. "We don't even know if..." Musk cut her off. "Listen to me. In less than 30 minutes, they're going to unleash something that no military on Earth is prepared to handle. You want to sit back and wait for the Pentagon to hold a meeting about it?" Her jaw clenched. She knew he was right. She grabbed her secure phone. "I'll make the call." Musk was already working ahead. If the military wasn't fast enough, he had another plan. He accessed one of SpaceX's low-orbit satellites, rerouting its targeting systems toward the compound. He pulled up an experimental electromagnetic pulse (EMP) override function, something originally designed for space debris neutralization, but now it was about to be used to take down the most dangerous hackers in the world. The agent turned back. "Strike authorization is taking too long. They're debating consequences." Musk didn't look up. "That's why I don't ask for permission." Her eyes widened. "Wait, what are you?" Musk hit enter. The EMP sequence launched. Above the Earth, a SpaceX satellite shifted its position, aligning with the hacker compound below. A countdown flashed on Musk's screen. The hackers had no idea what was coming. They were still focused on launching Omega, their servers fully operational, their systems open and vulnerable. 7. Inside the compound, engineers worked furiously, finalizing the AI activation process. A single red loading bar on their main terminal ticked toward 100%. One of the hackers suddenly frowned, glancing at an external monitor. Something was coming. Something above them. What? The EMP detonated. A wave of electromagnetic energy swept through the compound, frying every piece of technology in its path. Computers shut down instantly. Servers collapsed into darkness. The communication tower exploded in a shower of sparks. And just like that, Project Omega was dead. The hackers had been seconds away from winning. Now they were powerless. Musk exhaled, watching the satellite feed as the compound went completely dark. The agent blinked, stunned. "Did you just?" Musk leaned back. "Yeah." She stared at him. "You realize you just took down an entire cyber warfare unit without firing a single shot?" Musk smirked. "And they say I don't do philanthropy." The aftermath was immediate. Intelligence agencies swarmed the hacker compound, arresting every last member. World governments scrambled to understand what had just happened. And Musk? He went back to work. Because while the world saw him as a tech billionaire, a genius, or even a reckless risk-taker, he knew the truth. He wasn't just running companies anymore. He was fighting wars. And the next one? It was already on the horizon. Because somewhere, someone was watching all of this. And they were already planning their next move. Musk cracked his knuckles, staring at his screen. Let's see who's next. And with that, he started building the next defense. Because in this war, there was no finish line. Only the next battle.